Welcome to a Fans Fight Back special on the Pitch Boxing app, the only show where we don't pull out with shoulder injuries at the last minute. Larry. With us, we've got Harry Olabamiwo, Hollywood superstar, former boxer, man himself. How you doing, Larry?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. You're wicked with the jokes today, I'm telling you.
It won't, Larry, don't get excited. It won't last, mate.
I've got a limited period. We've got Kasim. How are you, Kasim?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, man. James Sunderland?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, very good. You well?
Yeah, I'm getting used to your background now as well, James. I feel like
I know. I'm trying to find somewhere in the house where if the kids go mental, we won't get disturbed. But yeah, I won't take you to bed this week, Martin. I don't think. Hopefully not.
That's a promise. I hope you keep. Rakeem Noble, boxing only former champion, who's also apparently a casual, according to Twitter.
According to Twitter, I'm just a guy on the armchair giving advice. Casual, don't know too much, but hey, already had about 14 fights, won a title. Yeah, casual stuff right there. Richard Poxon in a boozer.
Just want to point out this is not my own wallpaper.
Are you in a boozer or a Chinese? It looks like you're in a Chinese now.
Chinese boozer.
And Michael Sprott, who's joining us. There he is.
Big up, Michael.
Yes, Sprotty.
Evening, Michael. He's there, maybe.
Maybe not.
Can you hear us, Mike?
That is a man I will allow to move in his own time. I do not want to be on the wrong side of him.
Can you hear us, Mike?
We'll come to Michael when his audio is working.
I think he's on mute, Michael. I think you could be on mute.
So we got some serious heavyweights with us tonight. Talk about the fallout of the heavyweight scene. So this is in light of, and let's get into the subject pretty quickly. Dillian White. Let's start there. Dillian White pulling out of a fight with Otto Wallin at a week's notice with a shoulder injury, and the potential of other fights on the horizon, shall we say? Who wants to start? Let's go with you, Richard. I want to hear it from boxing management, promotional perspective. How bad is
to me, the WBC, it'd be really bad. It must be really bad. But the WBC putting out the word that they're going to call for purse bids and talking about Fury and purse bids is akin to when they said we're not doing any anti-doping testing during COVID in terms of stupid moves. I'm not saying whether he's injured or not. I don't know whether he's injured, but it's mysterious, isn't it? We're in a few days of him announcing what Fury's got to do next. And if this doesn't happen with Usyk, then they're going to move to the number one challenger. All of a sudden his shoulder goes. So it just doing moves like that just leaves people open to interpret for themselves what they think's happened.
It leaves a potential bad taste.
Yeah.
Right. Rakeem, you used to train with Dillian down in Miguel's.
Put me in the spot now. Yeah, go for it.
I'm not here to question Dillian White's integrity, because who am I to do so? But does it look poor? Does it look suspicious? Or is it genuinely you think he's done his shoulder?
On the outside, of course, it looks very suspicious. It's a few days after the news comes out that he's been mandated for Fury's title, the big one he's been chasing for. He just happens to get an injury. I know him and his coach, Xavier Miller, they're out in Portugal training. And I know he's got, I think, another fight. There's another fight as well of them training who's on the same cards. So I know they're all looking forward to Yusuf's training out there as well. So I'm guessing they're glad that the show's not cancelled because they still got fighters getting on that show. As far as for Dillian, it could potentially be a very smart business move because we was all saying, why would you take this fight now at a time where one banana slip can ruin the whole 5 years of work and being mandatory for 400 days? So, listen, I'm not saying that he's not injured. I'm not saying that anything suspicious is going on. Like, for all I know, he's probably suffering at home, bandaged up, nursing his wounds. But I think it was the best thing that could have happened at this point of time.
Yeah, James, Kasim, from a fan's perspective, outside looking in,
Yeah.
what do you two make of it?
I think when I first saw it, I don't believe in this conspiracy that he pulled out intentionally, because when a injury gets announced, the injury probably happened 4 or 5 days in advance, prior to that. So then the injury usually happens. I think the guys at Vox know that the injury happens and they sort of assess it, do the scans, then they come to a conclusion. So I think he was sort of doing his last bit of sparring, or maybe on the weights, and pulled the shoulder, because by contract he has to fight at a wall-in regardless. I don't think the fight will be cancelled. I think the fight will still happen. It'll just be pushed to a later date. There's no sense in him pulling out. I don't think he would make such a rash decision 8 days, 9 days before a fight. So I don't kind of believe in this
Kasim, can I just ask
conspiracy.
you a question? Kasim,
Yeah,
I need
sure.
to ask you a question. How
Yeah.
can you say you're a boxing fan and then say you don't believe in conspiracies?
No, no, fair enough. I said
Boxing is 60% conspiracy.
no, in this
Boxing is
situation,
60% conspiracy.
in this situation in particular, you don't spar 6 days before a fight. Usually tapering down. So
You're
I don't
going to
think
tell
he
me you
pulled
don't believe in Roswell Alien and Landings next?
No, I said in this particular situation, I don't believe there's a conspiracy. I think he genuinely pulled the muscle, or he injured his arm or shoulder.
James, are you on board with Kasim?
I've got to say, I'm not. I can't get on board with that. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I just think it's just everything that Dillian White says he is, and I believe he is. He's the can man you get in. No one's ever fully fit. You know, I think the only time he's like, I know it's a high level fight, but like this, like if I look at the state that he got in the ring against the fella in Saudi Arabia, who was that? He was in no fit. Was it Whack? Was it Whack?
Marius Whack, yeah.
Like, he was in no
Yeah.
fit state to fight then, and it's like, I don't know. There's just too many little red flags where you look at this and just think. Like,
But,
I mean,
okay, then-
I'm gutted. I really like the fight. If I'm honest, I think it's more competitive than Fury White. I think White Wallen's a more competitive fight. If I'm honest, I really look forward to it. But yeah, I'm just not buying it. I think it's just like I don't know. There's another side of me that looks at this and think this is his first fight in a while off pay-per-view. So is there, there's possibly less pressure and obligation to go in there not fully fit. So maybe it is. I don't know. If you ask me,
how would he have pulled the muscle then? Okay, if you think about it,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think he has. Is what I'm saying. I don't think he has.
You think he hasn't pulled the muscle at all?
I think if you're looking at this, he's saying ultimately, like the reward of fighting Fury if it gets called. What does he necessarily gain from taking this fight if he's going to get called anyway?
Then how about if Dimitri Salita goes to court or goes to the WBC and forces the fight? Then what? I don't think Black Box Management or Dean White or anyone involved is stupid. I don't think they're that quick.
I know what you're saying, but I think listening to some of the interviews, I think there's been a lot of noise from Eddie Hearn saying we're pushing things with the WBC. We're waiting for clarification. There's certain things going on. That seems to have gone quiet, and now that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Just
You
my
could make an argument.
Kasim is
Sorry, go for it, Rakeem.
I'll say Kasim as well. How many times in boxing has there been agreements or contracts which higher powers have been able to override or see past just because of their stature? The WBC is the top organization when it comes to sanctioning bodies. How many times have they stepped around the rules and bended it to allow their guys or the fight they want to happen be put in place?
Bang on. I agree. It's just, with my perspective, I just think it's just too random of a situation. Like, I don't think they're stupid. I think the contract is the contract. And I think Dimitri Salita and everyone involved has got that contract written down in print, and they will enforce it.
But what about the contract that said Oscar Valdez fighters shouldn't fight if they fail drug tests, and he went on to fight the following week? What about that contract? I'm sure that was pretty written bold writing, but it still went ahead. So
yeah.
I mean, you could also make a case, and I'm not saying it is the case. I'm saying you could make a case that whatever money, if White were to step down from the Wallin fight and move straight onto Fury, there's enough money there that you could pay Wallin X amount of money just to go away. Just don't bother being around.
I mean, he's got enough heavyweights, and to give him another fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he'll just fight Eric Molina at some point in the future.
I think the Romford Bull has put a message on Twitter saying he's willing to step in.
BA. We got two big heavyweights here. Michael Sprott. We got Larry Olubamiwo. you guys, right? You're two big heavyweights, a week out from a fight, big payday, headline in the O2. Do you do your shoulder? Is that going to happen?
Boy, well, here's the thing people are forgetting, right? It's happened to him before. He fought Povetkin, he lost. He doesn't want that to happen again. He had to get a rematch to get back the belt and get back his mandatory status. I'm not saying that he did do it, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he did fake the injury because he lost his spot before. He never thought he would get knocked out by Povetkin. And by all accounts, Otto Wallin is a much more dangerous fight. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he because it, just like Kazim just said, you're winding down a week. In fact, let me tell you what really, as we're big guys, we're actually winding down 2 weeks before a fight, really speaking. So you wouldn't be sparring heavy 2 weeks before a fight, being real with you. Unless you are not, you didn't have a great camp. Do you know what I mean? So even if you are sparring 2 weeks before the fight, or even a week before the fight, it'll be light sparring at that point. Do you know what I mean? If you've had a good camp, that is. So I don't really feel like he should have injured himself, but it's possible. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying that people shouldn't discount the fact that he might have faked it to not have to fight Wallin to fight Fury for the title. But here's another thing. I don't think he's going to fight Fury for the title because I don't think Fury's going to fight him. I think Fury's going to drop the title and fight the winner of Usyk and Joshua because he's at the stage now where he doesn't need the title. So, yeah, I think it's a moot point, to be honest.
And Michael Sprott, he sat there menacing in his car. That's intimidating. Look, there's a smile.
Big up, Michael.
Big up, Larry.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well.
Michael, you got in boot of that car.
I had to come in there because kids are running mad, mate.
What do you make of it all, Michael? What do you make of Dillian pulling out the situation?
No, Larry's answer. I totally agree. Coming up to the end of camp, sparring and everything is done. He should be like just slowing things down now and just going for the emotions, And sparring should have been hard sparring should have been finished, Joe. Is he injured? I don't know. I mean, like you said, it's possible, but I don't know. I can't really see why he would have been injured. So towards the end of his camp.
So one thing I want to throw into it is Matchroom have come out and said the fight is cancelled, not rescheduled. It's cancelled. What do people make of it? Is that a slip of the word, or is that a nuanced way of saying this ain't happening anymore? I
don't know. I think Richard, you said it last week when you were saying, as someone in boxing, if you're Anthony Joshua and you've got a Fury fight and someone says to you, look, I've got a fight for you. He's a southpaw. He's this, he's that. You're going to say no. Do you think there's maybe an element of Eddie and looking at this and think, do we really want to potentially...
Would Eddie throw that fight under bus to have some involvement in a Fury?
I don't know.
White
does he want to look?
I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Does he look
a million percent? A million percent.
Does he look at Joshua and White and think, do I want to lose two potential Fury opponents in the space of a month?
I don't even think it's that, James. I just think it's if he can get himself into a promotion, a Fury promotion with White, from whichever side he comes at it at, but he's got to throw that Wallin fight under bus and see if they sue him or see if he can offer him a fight. Listen, in boxing, it's the most simple business in the world. Money washes away any issue. So if you can pay Wallin off and get him to step aside or whatever, and to keep his mouth shut and suck a lemon, they will do. But Eddie would throw that fight and this top of bill under bus to be involved in that promotion. So if he thinks there's a Fury White coming up, he would 1,000,000% walk away from Wallin fight and not give it a second thought.
There's enough money in a Fury fight to make the Wallin problem go away if you chose to do that.
Well, it's just factored in. You can ask Mike, ask Larry, who've been in meaningful fights at heavyweight. you just pay some money and they go away. And at that level, you know, there'll be enough money. It's just factored in as a cost, like the undercards a cost, like hiring the venues a cost, getting Walling to shift out of way and keep his mouth shut is just a cost that's factored into promotion. And if that costs $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million for a bigger pot or 100 million, it won't even be given a second thought.
I want to ask you, Larry, if you're in the same position, you're a heavyweight, you're one fight away potentially from fighting Tyson Fury for the WBC title, what would you have done?
In that position, I wouldn't have done what. Well, if I wasn't injured, I wouldn't say I had an injury to avoid that fight, because I'm a big believer in whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So I personally wouldn't have done that. I would have fought Otto Wallin and then got my mandatory against Fury. But again, I don't think that Fury fight's going to happen. I really don't.
Larry, if I were managing you, I'd have stopped all that nonsense talk you've just come out with. and if Sprott said same after, I'd have stopped him as well.
Yeah, I want to know, Michael, what would you do if you're one fight from Fury? Would you, and again, just to clarify, I'm not saying Dillian White has faked an injury, but would you personally go, oh, it's a bit tighter than it should be, I'm going to pull out? Or would you go ahead with the Wallin fight?
I would go ahead with the Wallin fight. I would personally, yeah.
Fighter's mentality.
Yeah, because boxing, you're supposed to fight. Just fight in there. Whatever happens.
Mike, let me put it a different way to you. Mike, let me put it in a simple way to you. So, right, you're fighting Otto Wallin. Mike, I come to you. Mike, look, you've got this Wallin fight this weekend and next weekend. Let's use a round number. You're getting £1 million, risky fight, mate. But you know what? If you just hang fire and hurt your shoulder or pull your calf muscle or twist your eyelash, you've got Fury for 5 or 6 million. What do you want to do? Please don't tell me, Mike, you're going to say, yeah, I'll risk 1 million against 6 million. Mike, I'm begging you, please don't say that.
Yeah, but then Richard, that 6 million is still a pipe dream because there's no contract. There's no contract.
Yeah, but they'll already know what WBC is going to do.
Yeah, but
Larry,
you don't know what Fury's going to do.
If I had to use my Venom superpowers to hold you down and stop you taking that fight, I would do it.
Rakeem, give me your fighter's perspective.
Much bigger than me and know how to fight better than me.
Maybe as a super lightweight, I'm seeing it a bit differently from the heavyweights, but I'll take it up. Not saying any chance that Dillian and his camp, they fake the injury, but I would say for myself, I would definitely fake the injury. I'm not fighting anytime soon. I would definitely fake the injury. I would sit back.
Yes, Rakeem.
Watch that fight go to the side, and I'm thinking that multi-million-pound fight, because at the end of the day, that fight's going to pay for the fight before, the fight afterwards, and probably my next few fights. So take the iron while it's hot. Fury's unpredictable. Fury's had a great performance 2 weeks ago. Fury might go off into the distance again. He might disappear. He might go off the radar. Catch him while the iron's hot. Catch him now before he disappears again, or he decides his heart's not in it.
Yeah, but Rakeem, you don't have a contract. So who knows if that Fury fight's happening? Just like I said.
You don't have a contract. You don't have a contract. But if the Fury fight falls through and they don't happen, you can always go back to Wallin. You can always go back to the other top 10 heavyweights. You can always go back to a fight that's £1 million. But that £6 million fight, that might not, well, if Fury goes, that fight's not coming again. So that 1 million ain't going nowhere. It is not going nowhere. Otto Wallin will take that fight next month, in 6 months, in a year's time. It ain't going nowhere.
Rakeem, me and you were doing a virtual fist bump. We're doing a virtual fist bump.
Right? You're Dillian White's advisor, You're Dillian White's advisor. You've got Otto Wallin lined up next weekend. Or, as that potential, as Richard laid out, called it 5 million.
Yeah.
What would you do if you're advising Dillian White?
I think the way everyone's looking at it is Otto Wallin is like the 2021 Michael Mora or something. Otto Wallin's a brilliant fighter, but he's not like some absolute god in the ring that's unbeatable. Otto Wallin's got a brilliant jab. He sets the pace. As an amateur, he was awesome. Like during that 2010, 11, I think period, he was awesome. He was a really good amateur. But he's southpaw, but there's a thing that if it's a southpaw guy, like I'm automatically going to lose. No, I think they signed this fight on the back of the fact that they could win this fight. I mean, they must have had a list of opponents, went through them and thought, okay, Otto Wallin, we can beat them. I think stylistically, Dillian can be Otto Wallin. I don't understand what this thing is with Otto Wallin.
Yeah, but then
Michael Moore or something.
Kazim, you're not learning from history. They obviously thought the same about Povetkin, and look what happened there.
No, so bang on.
It's not. No. My point is, it's not that easy to say, oh, they think we can beat Otto Wallin. No one's saying Otto Wallin's he's
a live underdog.
Dylan's the favorite, but it could go Pete Tong. It could go Pete Tong as it went Pete Tong with Povetkin. So it's a sport. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
And I think, Larry, I agree. If I was his advisor, I would say pull a muscle or pull something and do that. But then at the same time, it's the fighter's mindset, like Michael Sprott said, he'd want to get in and fight. I don't know. I've never met Dillian. I don't know him. And I'm not going to question his integrity or his willingness to step inside the ring or pull an injury. But I think the promoter's mindset and the fighter's mindset are often quite different. I think that's quite fair to say.
But that's why you got managers.
They're exactly the same. The mindset's the same. The most money, the less risk. The most money. That's all this sport's about. The most money.
But then straight away, Larry and Michael.
Mindset is to make the most money.
Straight away, Larry.
Yeah, they're an anomaly. There's something up with Larry and Sprotty. I'm gonna have a word with them after they're getting detected. Sprotty and Larry are getting Poxon's detention.
Because my thing is that million is there. That's not going anywhere. The 6 million is still a pipe dream. No matter what you want to say, this, that, and the other, is still a pipe dream. There's no contract. I personally don't think Fury's going to take that fight. His dad's already kind of mentioned that he doesn't want him to take that fight, and I can see why. And I can see that happening. I can really see.
21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It can be purchased at AXS.
Someone's got my tickets.
What was that?
Someone trying to get a refund, aren't there? Someone trying to get a refund on the Dillian White ticket, I think.
But James, what would you do, right? You're the advisor. You're the advisor to Dillian. In that scenario, what are you telling him to do?
Swerve it like the plague. I've said this before. I do fancy Wallin in that fight, and I've said that. I would fancy Wallin in that fight. I think it's too, exactly like Richard said, it's too high risk, I think, for the position you're in. And exactly like, again, like Rakeem said, that fight isn't going anywhere. If they've got a contract, it wouldn't shock me, if we, and again, this is probably absolute, I can say rubbish, but if we suddenly see Otto Wallin signed on maybe a 3-fight agreement with Matchroom, just a bit of a sweetener. Look, you're getting that money, but you're not, we'll see. Bit of a sweetener, wouldn't shock me. It
wouldn't shock me if we ended up seeing White versus Wallin for the WBC title. As Larry said, what's to stop Fury just dropping the title?
I mean, they might make him franchise. They might,
champion.
It's ridiculous.
But even that, Mark, White versus Wilder is financially more beneficial than White Wallin.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the fact. That's a simple fact. Which fights make most money? And those two fights make the most money. So Sprott's in detention. Mike, I'll see you tomorrow 4 o'clock after school. And Larry's going into detention because they're thinking with their heart and not their head.
God.
I reckon the White Wilder press conference gets more views than a White Wallin fight.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
100%. Speaking of press,
Martin, you look back through history. How many people have took baby fights and had disasters? And this isn't a baby fight before a big fight. You look back at Michael Benn against Michael Moore. Larry, you remember Mike then. Mike, you remember Mike then. Listen, he's a pal of mine. Easy fight before he fought Lennox Lewis. Let's just, polish somebody off. Absolute train wreck or a decision. And Wallin is much more fancied than Bentware in that fight. And sooner or later, history repeats itself. So it comes down to why take the risk.
Yeah, and as I keep saying, it's happened with Povetkin. it's already happened. So they're gonna learn from that. They're not
He's
gonna
had a few
repeat the
scares.
same mistakes.
Yeah, he's had a few scares. hasn't he?
Sprott, are you telling me there's no way you would allow me to talk you out of that fight?
Well, no, you could. Yeah, you could. If we sat down as a team, we sat down
That's
as a
what I would
team.
like to hear.
Yeah, if we sat down as a team, and obviously said, look, you know, this is a bit of a risky fight. You can find obviously Tyson Fury for the WBC, then it's no point risking it, really.
Sprotty, you're off detention. You're all right now. We're back in canoe. We're all right, me and you. It's just
I wanted
Larry's
to ask
incorrigible.
I think Rakeem might know the answer to this. You know, with Dillian, who has more sort of power in terms of advisory? Is it Black Box and Dean, or is it Eddie and Matchroom?
It's a bit of a conundrum. They're all within each other, so Dillian talks to Black Box, which is of course Dean. Dean talks to Eddie, but then sometimes Dillian will go straight to Eddie. Obviously, at Dillian's level, he's got management, of course, but he can pretty much go straight to Eddie and be like, "I want this, I want that," or he'll send his management on behalf. So it's that kind of thing.
He's been self-managed for years, isn't he? He was self-managed like right from the beginning of his career, like 3 years in, once he was able to get it. He's been self-managed pretty much from the start of his career.
He's had Dean like advising him and like running back and forth for him, but yeah, he's pretty much done it a lot on his own. So yeah, if he wants to go to Eddie himself, he'll just go to Eddie because that's how he's always been doing it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you each individually. I want your answers. When and who against will we next see Dillian White fight? I'm going to go to you, Larry. You're top left of my screen. When and who are we next going to see Dillian in with?
I think he's going to fight Wilder next for the WBC.
Do ya? Crikey.
Yeah.
When do you reckon? Like March time?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Kasim? If you had 10 quid now, you got to put it on something.
Yeah. I think Dimitri Salita is going to find the best lawyers on Fenchurch Street, and he's going to enforce that contract, and he's going to make, Dillian White will fight Ottawale next. I think that will be done by force.
Do you? What, early next year?
I think after, well, it depends on the shoulder, of course, but I think January time, February, around that time. And then he'll be fresh for a fight against Tyson Fury.
Richard, I know your battery's dying, so I'm going to come to you next, Richard.
I think he'll box Fury. And for Kasim, I know somebody's selling a bridge in New York if you want to buy it.
I don't know.
Your heart's too good. Your heart's too pure, Kasim, to be a boxing fan. I can tell. You're setting yourself up for heartbreak. No, I think it'll be Fury. I think Fury will see it as a fairly straightforward fight for him if he's on form, White, and I think that's what it'll be while he waits for winner of Joshua and Usyk.
See, this is the mess and the chaos that it causes. From 3 different people, we've got 3 opponents who we think we're going to end up with next.
Josh Taylor's pulled the muscle as well. He's pulled out a fight.
Yeah, I know. He's pulled out the Cattrall fight, hasn't he?
And anyone heard of ibuprofen gel? What is all these pullouts for shouldering? Just larry yourself up with some DP and gel. What's up with him?
I've heard Larry's good for a bit of a concoction.
He used to be.
You might get them banned though.
B samples, mate. B samples. Don't worry about it.
We'll blame it on the beef. Blame it on the beef.
We can lock that shit away. We'll be fine. Rakeem, who would you go with? Who's your pick?
First of all, I just want to say to Kasim, the Ottawale and Dillian White fight is out the window. We're not going to see that. Whatever happens from now on, that fight's now gone. Now that the WBC title is set to Fury and Dillian's been mandated, Ottawale, your payday for that fight's probably gone out the window. I think it will be Fury, but I do think the possibility of Fury vacating and doing a madness and it then goes up between him and Wilder. I do think that could be a possibility too. At this point of time, I'm more swayed towards thinking that it's going to go towards the Fury-Wilder fight. No, Fury-White fight. It's a UK fight. It's big. There'll be a lot of money in that, a lot of hype around it. They're both top 5s. If there's going to be any fight other than the winner of Usyk Joshua for Fury, it's going to be that fight. So I don't see why, well, anyone in the right mind, but Fury has his own mind at times, why anyone in the right mind would turn that fight down. So I think that's going to be the fight next. Ottawale, I think he's probably going to get a matchroom deal 3-fight deal, have him fight Hergovich or someone, have him fight one of the other top 15 heavyweights on a smaller show and just
Martin Bacoli.
Yeah, just keep him happy, keep on TV, give him a little bit of money, put him to the side. This time next year, we would have completely forgotten that Otto Warling was meant to fight Dillian White. Like, in the past, it's gone now.
Yeah. Michael, who do you reckon we get Dillian White with next?
I think it'd be Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I think it'd be straight Tyson Fury. Yeah. And plus, I think Dillian should have fought for about time ago. So I think it's now.
So you reckon that'll be for the belt then? Fury's not gonna drop it.
No, I don't think he's going to drop it. No.
All right. And James, where are we next seeing Dillian?
Derek, no, I'm joking. Sorry, Richard, I'm joking. I reckon Tyson Fury. I do. I think that. I think and I'm coming at it from a fact that it's a bit of a swerve, and I think it'll happen. That's my opinion. Again, early next year, I would imagine. But
all right, we're going to move on from Dillian. Let's go light heavyweight really quickly before we move on to the other heavyweight issues. Let's talk Anthony Yard, Lyndon Arthur, that press conference this week. What did we make of it, anyone? Because it seems to have been overshadowed, and this is what I wanted to quickly touch on, the Pat Barrett and Tunde Ajayi issue. What does anyone make it? Should those two just step back and let the fighters get on with it, or are we okay?
Crack on. That'd be entertaining.
I think in a straightener, if you put Tunde Ajayi in a straightener with Pat Barrett on the cobbles, it's ending one way. One way.
No, but nobody needs to have a straightener with Pat Barrett on the cobbles. No one.
No chance.
I'd fancy Pat over Larry, over Michael. No, Pat's a scary man. You two are lovely.
I saw a clip yesterday of Pat completely knocking someone's head off in one of his pro fights.
Yeah, that's the European title. Yeah,
the guy, you never forget how to throw that punch. So
was it a big left hook?
So they probably doesn't want to come face to face with him in an actual fight because Pat can bang.
Yeah, I reckon that should be an undercard fight or even the main event.
Yeah. Probably the main event.
I'd watch that.
I'd watch that 100%. Pat and Tunde. Who wins out of those two though? Who wins out of Arthur and Yard?
I'm swaying towards Yard just because Yard in the first fight didn't throw anything for the first 6 rounds. I'm curious to see what he would do if he did start to throw punches early and didn't take that long before he unloaded it. So I don't know too much of Arthur, to be honest. Of course, Yard's been on our TVs from near the beginning of his career. We've seen him develop. We know that he isn't as developed as some of the other light heavies, but we can see what he can do.
Yeah.
And I think just that experience might just tip the scales maybe in his favor if he decided to start a bit early. Because look at the fight. He lost a split decision only getting warmed up in the 6 rounds. If he gave himself the full 12, then maybe he might just 115, 113 it, maybe. But we'll see.
But Arthur might throw his right hand this time.
Yeah.
That too. That could happen too.
Larry, what do you reckon? Rematch? Who wins?
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, just like Raheem said, man. It's a difficult one because, Yard did nothing for the first 6 rounds, literally, and then came and did something a lot. The first 6 rounds did nothing. Last 6 rounds did something. Was split decision, but Lyndon didn't throw his right hand. I really don't know. I don't know, man.
It's a good fight, though, isn't it? It's a good fight.
Good fight, yeah, 100%. It's a competitive fight, and that's more kind of like the fights we need to see at this level. But if you really push me for a winner, I say Yard, just on points.
Kasim, where you going?
I think it's going to be Lyndon Arthur by a landslide. Lyndon Arthur's talking about shoulders again. Lyndon Arthur's shoulder went in that fight. He could have thrown his right hand.
So you think you'll dominate it?
Yeah, and Yard had all his faculties that fight. He had no injuries or anything as such, and he still got beat by a man with one hand. The thing with Anthony Yard is, I know Tunde gets a lot of stick, and I think objectively he is a decent coach, but tactically he's not very inept. So if you see him in between corners, he doesn't know kind of what to do. And this is the thing with British trainers, which I don't want to go on a tirade on.
Lions in the camp.
Lions in the camp, man. That's all you need.
Solves everything.
That
Yeah.
I don't mind Tundai. I don't mind. Like he's a bit irritating and stuff. But if you're from London, I think Rakeem by your accent, you're from London, and Tundai has been around for a long time. He done a lot of work with O'Hara Davis, Junior Saba. He's been around for a long time. He's a decent coach. Obviously, he talks a lot of nonsense and he comes out with all this stuff. But objectively, he's not. Anthony Yard is amateur. I think he just won a box cup, like a Haringey. That's it. Like not even that. I don't think he done nothing as an amateur. And he was competitive with
Let me
Kovalev.
actually touch on that. So I was having a conversation with someone about this the other day because they were saying they don't think Tunde's a good coach. All respect to Tunde, because Anthony Yard had about 14 amateur fights.
Exactly.
I think he won the novice, maybe a Haringey. And Tunde, as a trainer, he's took him from an 0-0 kid up to fighting for a world title in an 11-round fight. Now, people can always say, oh, he fought easy person, he fought this person, he didn't fight that person. But at the end of the day, as the trainer, it's your job to prepare the fighter for what he does inside the ring. And Tunde has done that fantastically. He's done his job. He got his fighter fit and physically able to get into a ring every time round, regardless of who it's against. I can think of a bunch of coaches who would have probably lost fights before that, not have got him up to the standard, and not got to that world title by fighting 17 tomato cans. So you got to give Tunde his props for that. He did take a fight from
I could turn that argument on his head and say, why didn't he prepare him better for the Lyndon Arthur fight?
Yeah.
You could say that. You can say that, but I still thought you need to at least give him the credit for getting him to a world title, because how many coaches never get a fight to a world title in the first place?
That was a hugely underrated achievement.
Yeah, it was.
But it doesn't mean that he can't take criticism for the Arthur fight.
Yeah. He can take criticism for that. I do feel a lot of people are harsh on Tunde, like, oh, he's not a good coach, he's terrible. Isn't that? Yeah, for the Arthur fight, the tactics I think were terrible. But I will give him credit that he got a fight to a world title from scratch. He wasn't an Olympian, wasn't a GB boy. It was just a guy from Islington Boxing Club with 14 fights, never been in the ABAs, and fair play to him.
Yeah. Michael, who you got for the rematch?
I got Arthur, Lyndon Arthur to win the rematch.
Yes.
Do you think he does it easily? Do you think, like Kasim thinks, it's going to be an easy job?
Well, it won't be an easy job. No, it won't be easy. But I don't know. I think his jab is superb. He's got a very good jab. Like the guy said, he was injured in his right arm. So obviously, he'd be firing all cylinders. So I think it'd be it. I think it'd be okay. Yeah, it'd be okay.
Yeah. James, North versus South here. You got your man up in Manchester.
Yeah, he won me a tidy few quid actually last time Lyndon Arthur. That was
did he?
Enjoy. Yeah, I had a bit of money on that, and so yeah, I think Arthur does it again, and I think I agree with Rakeem, and I can't even have any sort of conversation with Larry, Michael, Rakeem experience, bow down to your experience of what you know. But I just wonder with the likes of Yard, like when I look at the fights coming through now, we're building his profile, there were a lot of like big left hooks landing out of nowhere, a lot of, and I just think in the fights against Kovalev and Arthur, I noticed he was trying them, but they weren't landing, and then it was like there was no plan B from that, and I think Arthur's again feet are underrated. I think his feet are quite good, and I think Yard's probably a little bit flat-footed. So can he get in? I don't know. And again, I think got to look at Yard. Obviously, he had a horrendous build-up with a pandemic and things like that with his family, which no one wants to see. Horrific for anyone, and to go into a fight takes a serious set of balls. But Arthur didn't have a right hand, and there's a crowd this time. There's all factors that that you could take into play. But I don't know. Yard just strikes me as one of those guys, possibly similar to Joshua, where he could have probably competed at a reasonable level in any sport. He just looks like an absolute beast. A bit of, whereas I think Arthur's the boxer. I think Yard's probably more the athlete trying to be a fighter. But
all right. Well, let's move on that tone to someone who could probably be exceptional in any sport, but got trained as a boxer, Anthony Joshua. What do we make of the fact that he's going around America, dealing with all these new trainers? We've seen him in with Ronnie Shields, amongst many others. Do we think he's going to move away from Rob McCracken? Let's start, Michael. Let's go to your end. Do you reckon we've seen the end of Joshua and Rob McCracken?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think Joshua. I think he's trying to obviously keep him in the camp still, but he wants to bring someone else. I don't know, but I don't know. Yeah, I think he's going to drop McCracken. Yeah, I think he's going to drop him.
You can get rid of him.
Yeah, I think get rid of him. Because at the end of the day, he's lost two fights now, and obviously this music fight. I don't know what tactics they told him, but it was the complete wrong tactics. I would never have had Joshua to try and box Usyk. It's just like he's not that kind of guy. He's not that kind of build to try and box. He's more of a take you out kind of person.
Yeah.
So I would have had him roughing him up, grabbing him up, using his head, elbows, all sorts. Yeah.
What do you reckon, James? Are we seeing the end of McCracken Joshua, or is this?
I think so. Yeah. And again, a question for you, Michael. Like, can a trainer put the dog in a fighter? Is it either there or it's not?
What's that?
Saying, Joshua, I think people saying like he needs, to get that dog back. Can a trainer put it there, or is it there or it's not? Is it one of those things that can be put there by someone else by motivation and changing the scenario, or is it, when it counts, when the lights are on, you're in the ring? Is it just there or it's not? Because I can't, surely Joshua would have known that he needed to, roll the dice a little bit.
That's exactly what I mean. There should be a plan A, a plan B. But surely, being a boxer himself, he would know. Like, if a certain amount of rounds things aren't working, then he should go back to what he knows doing best. Personally, yeah.
What do you reckon, Larry? Can you get somebody to get the dog out of you, or has that dog gone for a walk, fucked off into the woods? You're never going to see it again.
Well, to answer James's question, which you just reiterated, I think Marvin Hagler said it best when he said it's very difficult to wake up at 4 a.m. when you're wearing silk pajamas. I think there's a certain element of that when it comes to Joshua. He's made all the money in the world. I think his kids financially secure. His kids are financially secure, and I don't think that dog is in him anymore. I really don't. So that's one thing. And do I think someone can put it into someone? Generally speaking, no. But I do know of occasions when that has happened. So there are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, no, I don't think so. Now, Joshua's problem, in respect to Robert McCracken, he is definitely going to get rid of McCracken. I heard from several people who were around Joshua at that Usyk fight that before he was going to the ring, he was asking several people, including guys like Clifton Mitchell, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
As if the last 2 weeks of training camp hadn't.
No, this was before going out to the ring.
Yeah, so those 10 weeks of training camp hadn't given him the answer. He was asking.
Well, that means that, well, there you go. That means you have no faith in your coach. If you're asking random people who have not been in your camp, what should I do? You've got no faith in your trainer. And I've actually had conversations with certain people about this, and I know for a fact that there's been misgivings about this relationship for a while now, ever since he lost to Ruiz. And it's no surprise to me that he's gone looking for another coach. I think this is the end of that relationship. It should have been the end of that relationship a long time ago, because while Robert McCracken is an excellent amateur coach, let's get it right. He made his name as a professional coach with Carl Froch. And all Carl Froch had to do was walk forward because he had an iron chin. He had no skill. Like, he just walked forward. And I mean, look at the Jermaine Taylor fight. Jermaine Taylor was beating all sorts of crap out of him until he got the punch in, because he can hold a hit. Same with Darrell. Darrell was making him look stupid in there. Like, Froch made Robert McCracken, but it wasn't because of Robert McCracken. So I think he's taken that relationship and it's built a myth around Robert McCracken that is not there. And I feel now is going to be the time that Joshua seeks coaching elsewhere. But is that going to make a difference in this Usyk fight? Hell no. Usyk's still going to beat him.
We're going to come on to that. We're going to come on to that.
Okay.
You're quite an advocate of like American trainers, and you have question marks over British trainers. What do you make of it? Have we seen the end of McCracken, do you think, or is this going to be supplementary to Rob McCracken?
Is that Rakeem or Kasim? I'm a bit...
Kasim.
Oh, okay. I think there's certain things which Joshua needs to know, which he won't learn in England. But saying that, Joshua taking a trip to America, all he has to do is go to Brixton and go to Don Charles. Honestly, I think Don Charles can bring that sort of dog out in Anthony Joshua. I honestly think starting Don Charles is a heck of a coach. I think he can sort of teach him that aggressive style. And yeah, and I think Joshua is just being a tourist. Honestly, like I would do the same if I went to America. I probably would tour loads of different gyms. I'm sure everyone here would. I think everyone's being too conspiracy theory. Oh, he's taking a picture with Ronnie Shields. What does this mean? Like, I think he's just being a tourist. Honestly, I genuinely think he's kind of being a tourist. Do I think Rob McCracken's going to be in his corner? I think they'll kiss and make up, and I think he'll be in his corner. But I think the problem lies with Jobby Clayton and Angel Fernandez, because they're teaching him this weird Samba Cuban footwork, Instagram, YouTube kind of boxing, which I don't think works for Joshua. Jobby Clayton, he's a very good coach. He trained, what's his name, Ben Whitaker, just around the corner from me, actually. But Joshua's kind of body and physique and type of fighting is not something like Ben Whitaker or Jobby Clayton. But on the flip side, Rob McCracken trains Hardman, so Howard Eastman and what's his name, Carl Froch. And Joshua has everything but a chin, which Howard Eastman and Carl Froch had. So it's a very, very weird mix, because Joshua's not a hard man, but he's not a slick man either. So he's kind of caught in a very weird position. I think personally what he should do is go to America, go to a Ronnie Shields or like a Bill Miller-esque kind of coach that can teach him how to fight on the inside, that can teach him what to do after he gets hit, all these kind of simple things. I think in reality, it'll be the same thing. I think Rob McCracken will be in his corner. I think Angel Fernandez and Jobby Clayton will still be there. Less of an influence, but still be there. And yeah, I think it'll be the same thing. I think we will just beat him even more next time.
Rakeem, is Don Charles the man to bring it out of Joshua?
Don Charles, you know, when it comes to trainers, and on the topic of bringing dog out fighters, every individual has dog in them. It just takes certain situations, coaches, or moments to bring it out of them. Some, of course, people, it's a lot easier to bring that dog out of them. Others, it takes a lot more for it to be brought out of them for whatever reason. So in Joshua's case, maybe his time with Rob McCracken, maybe it's coming to an end. Maybe Rob's done all for Joshua that he can do. Remember, Rob's been aiding Joshua from his amateur days. So 2010 up until now, it's a long time working together, professional and amateur. So I think it could just be a point where Joshua has learned as much as he can learn from Rob. No disrespect to him, but now it's time for him to go elsewhere and find someone else who can bring something else out of him. And as far as the relationship right now between Joshua and Rob, let's just put it in this context. Let's say you and your missus have a breakup, you're arguing, you split, go separate ways, and the next week she's on Tinder, she's in her best outfit, she's going out, she's on Instagram, she's uploading selfies, going on dates. That's how right now Rob McCracken's the guy who's broken up, looking at his phone and being like, oh, she never used to wear this for me. It's not like that. Used to wear this for me. So I think feelings might be hurt.
I think that's too deep. I think Rakeem, that's too deep, man.
I think it's probably gone separate ways. I don't know how bad. I don't know. Larry was talking about there's been a bit of backstory to it. I don't know how deep it's gone, but it's pretty much the case of seeing your girl on Tinder after a breakup. I think it's fair to say that Joshua is.
But Rakeem, okay, you're a fighter. Wouldn't you, Rakeem, if you went to America and you had a trainer, wouldn't you go take a picture with, you know, Canelo and his coach, just for hell's sake, just as memories, wouldn't you?
When was the last time Joshua went to America and had a picture taken, had a tour with all the coaches taking pictures of them? Tell me the last time you saw that, and he made it public. Yeah, but no, Joshua has met loads of other boxing coaches. He's spoken to loads of other people. He's met with the team. When was the last time he was putting pictures of it up on Instagram to let the world know that I'm in America talking to coaches? Even though I saw a piece with Ronnie Shields, and he was saying, yeah, I'm speaking to Joshua. Joshua said he's looking at different coaches around America for his next fight with Usyk. So I never heard Joshua say that after the fight with Ruiz in America, saying, I'm looking at new coaches for my next fight coming up with Ruiz. So I definitely think now is the time where Joshua is on the look, he's on the prowl. to see what he can get there. And I think, yeah, all good for him. He's been with Rob for over 10 years, so
And now he's on
why
Tinder.
not?
And now
Yeah,
he's on
on Tinder.
Now he's on Tinder,
Yeah.
living his best life, going out more, showing more skin, just having a good time, seeing what's on offer.
But I said this before, the best way to get that dog in him, I think, is to go and fight Dillian White.
Yeah, just something you mentioned there, Rakeem. Everyone's got the dog in him. I agree, and I think. But do you think every fighter has a certain amount, and every time they have a tough fight, that the amount of dog you have left gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's
little chihuahua.
yeah. I mean,
No,
if you imagine Steve Gray's glass of water, is it getting smaller and smaller for Joshua's dog? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it does vary. It does vary on how much you want something. Because, of course, how much you want something today isn't going to be exactly the same how much you want something tomorrow. So, of course, Joshua at the start of his career, fighting the likes of Martin, Parker, getting to those big fights, getting to that superstar status, he really wanted it. The dog in him was barking aloud. But now that he's at that point, is the dog in him still vicious? Is it still grounding? Is it still how it was before? Is it still as determined to win it? Like, I would have thought, realistically, what Larry said about the Hagler speech about the silk sheets waking up at 5 in the morning, it probably isn't as it used to be. And that's what happens with a lot of fights when you get to the top level. You've done it all. You've done everything. You can't be as driven or passionate as you was before. And that can reflect in your performance by the next guy who has got that dog in him.
Yeah, I know. And I think when you think about the Ruiz fight as well, like, he didn't look that gutted that he got stopped. And it's just whether, had he had it beaten out of him, like, and with the Usyk thing, did he really want to go there again? I don't know.
I always say with the Ruiz fight, the first Ruiz fight, I do generally think it was a case that he went in there. It was meant to be Baby Miller.
Yeah.
Ruiz is an opponent. Ruiz is this big, short, a fat, short Mexican kid. This is a breeze. This isn't. Well, of course, I'm going to train for it, but this isn't going to be as hard as I expected it to be. Got complacent, got caught. Rest was history. That's why in the next fight he came back and he seemed to have just handled it so well.
Yeah.
I think now going into the Usyk fight, he probably has that in him where I don't want to rough it up too much. I don't want to take any risks if I don't have to take any risks. I'm at a position now where I don't have to have that dog in me. And Usyk just had that bit more dog in him than him on the day.
Rich, you've seen it all from every side of the sport. If Joshua leaves McCracken, or not even leaves, but supplements McCracken with a new American shiny trainer, is there enough time to make a difference? And does it change the outcome of the Usyk rematch?
No, I can't see. Like I heard same stories Larry did about Josh on way to ring asking other people for their opinion. I've heard that as well. I don't know if it's an urban legend, but I've heard the same thing. But look, Rob Lett, you said Rob Lett, Joshua brought Kobe in and Angel in. Should he have allowed, if Rob were in complete control of that camp, would you have allowed that? Two more trainers coming into in two different things, we a fighter. Is he then going to supplement them and then another American come in? It's just, how many people can fit in a tent? I weren't totally surprised at that result with Joshua, like a lot of people were, because I know kids will knock about him in Sheffield. I was watching the camp when Rob were in, they're all putting up Instagram stories every day at camp while Rob were in Japan. And to be honest, it half looked like a lad's holiday without any beer. It was just everybody clowning around and messing. And look, obviously they're not filming the serious stuff, but it was just like everybody wanting to gurn for a camera. And everybody, to me, it just didn't look. And listen, I'm a miserable old Yorkshireman, as you all know now. I'm an old man, I'm miserable. But from looking from outside, it just didn't look like a serious camp. And so would Rob be involved and then bring somebody else in on top of that? I don't think his own pride would allow it. I'd like to think his own pride wouldn't allow it.
I don't think he would either. I think it's either him or someone else. I don't think it's him and someone else.
No, well, look, that's not worked, has it? It's obvious from corner in that fight with, different people. And I look at things sometimes after fights. I don't know if you noticed, when he lost that fight to Usyk and he went back to corner, there were about 25, 30 people all trying to pat him on back after he'd lost. What happened to just your trainer being in corner and your cutsman or, your manager jumping in and giving you a hug? There were people fighting to be the ones who could pat him on back after he lost. And it's just like, there's just the camp's swollen and swollen and swollen. Rightly so. Look, he's made everybody a lot of money, and he's made a lot of money himself. But I just think too many people, and it's just and too many people want to be Instagram famous and are doing it for cameras, and it just ends up a mess. And going back to that, bringing the dog out in people, I've always said, you know, the old sayings are the best ones. It's called self-belief for a reason, because you've got to have it yourself. People can't give you self-belief. They can give you confidence, you know, and tell you that you're doing something right. But when the shit hits the fan and it's on top of you, Larry will tell you, Mike will tell you, it's down to what you've got inside you and what you really believe about yourself. Nobody can give you that. They can give you confidence in your performance, confidence in your moves, confidence in your power. But that fight that's in you, it's self-belief. And if you ain't got that self-belief, no one can give it you. Look at Mike Sprott. Look at everything Mike achieved, and on way to, you know, his big victories and his great nights. He had some bad nights, and he lost a few, but he never lost. He never lost that. You never saw Mike go into a ring thinking, or nobody's ever said after a Mike Sprott fight, or did he dog it? Never. He might have got older and might have lost some of his ability or skills or whatever, but nobody ever thought that, because that's in Mike. Somebody whispering in his ear, or saying with Larry, or saying with Rack, and saying, "Oh yeah, but you're this. You are a dog. You are a dog." Listen, you can sit outside of a cat as long as you want, telling it it's a dog. It's still a cat. And I'm not saying Joshua's a cat. Joshua's a big lump. And listen, Joshua's a pal of mine. I'm good pals with Joshua. I keep in touch with him. But you know, you can tell something. There's something as many times as you want. They're not. They are. You either are or you're not. And it's not a gift. But that self-belief is not a gift, or being the dog or whatever. It's not a gift that someone can give you.
Michael, Larry, is there enough time? You're two big heavyweights. You've been through it all. Is there enough time? And I think, Larry, you started to allude to this already. Is there enough time for someone to come in and make a difference for Joshua ahead of that Usyk rematch?
No.
No, but Larry, how do you really feel?
Listen, he got concrete. It's not like the Ruiz fight where, you know, you can make a couple of adjustments and it'll be all good, as he did in the second fight. He got comprehensively outboxed. And then even the bit, it's funny because I hear people talking about, oh, he should have just walked into him and used his power. Well, even when he was standing toe-to-toe with Usyk, did you notice that when he did hit Usyk didn't flinch. And when Usyk hit him, there was a couple of times when he was really hurt. So even that game plan is not foolproof. So I struggle to see what he's going to do in there in the next fight to beat Usyk, because he's not going to outbox Usyk. I don't think he's going to outbully him or outpower him. He's not going to knock him out, I don't think. So how is he going to win that fight? Do you know what I mean? And I honestly do believe that dog has gone in him, because I feel like he's living a good life now. And rightly so. I can't blame him. Listen, I'll probably be the same if I had his money. Do you know what I mean? So I don't see how any coach, it could be Freddie Roach, who I rate a lot, could be anybody. I don't think they're going to make any difference to his performance in the next match against Usyk.
Michael, did you ever change trainer looking for something else, looking for hope, looking for an answer that you weren't getting where you currently were?
No, never. When I've had if I've ever changed trainer, it's either they've taken around and walked or changed they've walked off from me, or etc. But I've never. No, I've always stayed loyal to my trainers. You know, so obviously I was with my amateur coach Vicky Maslin for my amateur career and through my early part of my professional career, and then he came around one day and said, you know, I can't train anymore. I haven't got the time. So I went to Jim Evans. I trained with Johnny Beanfield, and then he passed away, and then I trained with Jim, and obviously I stayed with Jim all the way through. But I've never been like, oh, do you know what? This isn't working out. I need to find myself another trainer.
You've never come off a loss thinking, right, I need to find somebody else who's going to add something, you know, a dog in me or change my style or my tactics. In the same way we're kind of seeing Joshua looking like it may be the case.
No, never. I haven't. I've just grind hard and mentally strong. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
James, Kasim, what do you reckon? Is there enough time for Joshua to find somebody who can make adjustments that give him the tools to win?
I think for Usyk, perhaps not, but for the long term, yeah. Because if you remember Lennox Lewis when he got sparked out by Oliver McCall, he was under Davenport, wasn't he? I think if my memory serves me correctly, it was John Davenport to train him when he got sparked out by Oliver McCall. He was the same age as Anthony Joshua. He was 30 when he went to Emmanuel Stewart. So I think I'm not comparing them because Lennox is a million times better than obviously Anthony Joshua. But if you look at the sort of progress which Lennox made under Davenport to Stewart, same age, if Joshua makes even 15% of that sort of progress, that's a success, and he could go on to be a lot of fighters. Because if you look at Lennox in his early days, his best wins on Davenport were Razor Ruddock and Frank Bruno. They were good fighters, don't get me wrong, but if you look at what he went on to do, and that was only through a good coach by making that decision to get rid of John Davenport and move on. I think if Joshua does the same, if he does sack, I think Rob McCracken is Joshua's Davenport, and I think he needs to find his Manny Stewart almost, if you know what I mean. And if that's Ronnie Shields, I don't think it's Ronnie Shields. I don't think Ronnie Shields is that. I think Ronnie Shields is a good coach, but I don't think it's the right coach. And I think if he goes to, honestly, if he just goes into Baltimore, if he goes into Philadelphia and just walks into a gym, honestly, they'll teach him so much. And I've always said, you will learn more in a Baltimore gym than you will in EIS. I'll always say that 100%. And I think Joshua just does that. If he walks into Baltimore, no one will probably recognize him. Well, he probably will, but he won't be as famous, of course. If he goes to Baltimore, if he goes to the Bronx and just trains there for a few months, I think the progress will be insane.
James, do you see any hope that a change in trainer or an adding of trainer gives him a win against Usyk?
Nope.
You like Larry? Nah.
Yeah, I don't. And as I've said for it, like I was very, very strong on Usyk in the first fight. That's fancied him strongly, and I just think that style is wrong for Joshua. You know, it can change a lot up, but the minute it's not going right, I think he'll revert back to type, and I think Usyk wins. But I just think, what does Joshua want to be like? I think how much of Joshua is about brands, image, being corporate, and how much of is it about being a boxer? Because if he goes to America to be more on that boxing side and learn, which again, I think he is what he is now. I don't know his age, experience, how much more development is there? I'm not sure. But just think, if he then goes to America, how much impact would that have on his brand, his presence in the UK? Because everything about Joshua really has been built about him being a superstar in the UK. And
yeah, his commercial appeal, if nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So what does he want? You know, if he wants to do that and roll the dice, fair enough. And if he does get beat to Usyk, would he be willing to come back at a lower level? Again, coming back to what Michael said earlier, is the desire really going to be there? I don't know. I think he loses again, and then we find out what he wants, I suppose. Would anyone blame him if he walked away? Absolutely not. He's transcended the sport. He's been unbelievable for it. I'm sure there's, so many boxers that have benefited from what he's done. But I just think got to strip it all back and look at what it is, in the ring. I just think that they're two separate things, and that's what I'm saying. The commercial side of him and the boxer side of him are, one of them's up here, and the other one I don't think is quite at the same level. So what does he want?
Yet it's both are reliant upon one another.
Let me just touch quickly on what James said. I agree with him. I don't think there's enough fighting him left for boxing. And should, as we all expect him to, or most of us do, expect him to lose to Usyk again, I believe he retires after that.
Again, and remember we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, Martin, and I was going on about that program he did on BBC where he said, if I have another fight like that against Klitschko, I'm done, so to speak. So it was maybe a throwaway comment, but if there was something in that, and he doesn't want those sort of humdingers anymore, and he does, which when you look at his style since then, he's been more of sort of, on the jab, 1-2, that sort of thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Rakeem, I'm going to end on you. Would you like? If you're Joshua, do you walk away from Rob McCracken right now and find someone else, or do you add to Rob McCracken, or do you just stay with Rob McCracken?
I really do believe it depends. It just depends what Joshua wants to get out of it. Of course, for Joshua, he's a very unique case where he's really got two strands. What Kasim said about Joshua, he can go away, he can rebuild himself as the boxer and improve himself. Lennox Lewis did it at this point of his career. But also what James said in that Joshua is a PR magnet. He is transcended the sport. You can't think of Joshua fighting out without this everything around it, the showcase that it is. When Joshua fights, the UK stops still. Now it's up to Joshua. What does he want to do? Does he want to continue to go down the showcase of the United Kingdom, or does he actually want to be the best fighter that he could potentially be? Because at this point, he hasn't had to be the best fighter that he can be. He's been in the UK. He's had the media around him. He's been on talk shows. He's been in adverts, commercials. He's had everything around him in Sheffield, which he's trained at for the best part of his career as an amateur and as a professional. It's been comfy, but maybe now it's time, I uproot and I see if I can be as best as I can be, not from the PR side, but from the boxing side. Can he beat Usyk? I don't think so in the space of one camp. Usyk's pound for pound arguably the best fighter on the planet. I don't think you can go from a performance like that to then beating that one pound for pound fighter on the planet. He can definitely go away, improve himself, get better, and take on other opponents, but I think Usyk may be a couple of fights away. It might be a couple of fights away. It might be a task which is just too big for Joshua to handle at this point in his career. One other thing, I think Mike Tyson, someone said AJ, after he's lost of a month, AJ's still learning, he's a baby, he's still got a lot more time. He's 31 years old. How much more time does he have?
Yeah, but look at Lennox, but Rakim, that's not fair though. Rakim,
hold on. Fair. He can still learn, but how much more can he learn, and how long can you refer to him as a baby in the sport, which he's been in for over 10 years?
Yeah, but look how long, if he boxes till 38, 37, like Vladimir did with Vitali, that's 8 years.
What multi-millionaire wants to box realistically until they're 38 when they start at 22?
But like Richard says, history does repeat itself, and he can box until he's 37. He's very, very fit, he's in shape. He can box for another 5-6 years, correct?
Let's all just be realistic. Is Anthony Joshua going to be boxing until 38 years old, being at the status and stage that he is in his life?
Even if he does, would he be willing to drop down the levels and not be the pay-per-view star? Because if he loses again, are people going to come out? A stadium's going to be sold out again. You know,
I suppose turn it to Michael and Larry. You two are big men. Would you want to box until you're 37, 38 at that level if you were multi-millionaires, generational wealth?
Hell no.
Hell no. There you go.
Plenty of lads have done it as well.
No, I mean, Klitschko did it, didn't he? You know, Klitschko was still going with all that money. And it's not to say that he can't do it or he wouldn't do it, but the odds might be against him doing it.
I thought when Klitschko did it, I felt Klitschko was a more solid champion where him and his brother had the era of we're going to have this boring boxing style, which is going to work for us, and no one's going to even come close. Where I feel Joshua's fights are a bit too...
But also, the brothers were a level above everybody else as well. So they had a decade of...
Yeah, but he was only a level above everyone else because he got a new coach and he worked on his style to become a level better than everyone else. He had some good fighters. David A was around in his time. He had Chris Bird.
I don't think Joshua's going to be a Klitschko. I love Joshua, but I don't think he's going to be a Klitschko. I don't think he's going to have a 10-year reign of dominance.
I agree.
Because here's the thing that Rakim touched on. He's a media star. He's doing adverts. He's branding. Blah 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 blah. That's great. But guess what? He's putting so much effort into that because he wants to maximize the amount of money he can make while he's fighting, while he's at the top. That's why he's doing that.
And also when he stops fighting as well.
Yeah, and he's earning money without getting punched in the head, isn't he?
So there's no point in him fighting because Klitschko seemed to have other motivations apart from money. I don't think Joshua has that. I honestly don't think Joshua has that. So I think primarily it's the money. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the whole point. You wouldn't box for free. So I feel like he's made the kind of money now where he knows his kids are financially secure. He can do what he wants. He can go into business. He can do what he wants, whatever. But he doesn't have to worry about getting hurt, possibly ending up dead in the ring. Do you know what I mean? Like and that's a thought he has to think about as well. So I feel like he ain't gonna go on much longer. Even if he beats Usyk, I think he's gonna sit down and have a good think about how long he really wants to go on for, which is not going to be very long.
You've got.
I think he's already had that conversation.
He's
Yeah.
got that profile that he could take over from Hearn. He could be the next Hearn in the sense of he could carry the sport as a promoter.
Nah,
Yeah.
I can't stand the sound bites he'll come out with. Oh God, they'll be awful. Nah, I couldn't do that. I think there's one on Instagram. It was like, I'd rather be a gardener. I'd rather be a warrior in the garden.
He's got the worst quotes. He's got the worst quotes.
He tries to be like philosophical and use like words from great ancient Greek philosophers, but he just goes south every time he tries it.
It doesn't fly, does it? It doesn't fly. Right. That's all. Right, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your input. Larry, Venom 2, people out there, go and check it out.
Check it out. And also, please check out my new YouTube channel, the Gym Rat Pack Do Entertainment.
All right.
Please check that out. We've just started it, me and my pal. Obviously, I'm an actor now. He's an actor. Obviously, we love the gym. We're gym rats. So we're going on everything entertainment-wise, which includes boxing. We have a whole thing on the Wilder Tyson Fury fight. So please check it out.
Larry's pure value. Get involved. Check out what he's doing. Get in there.
Larry's gone full Hearn, hasn't he? Selling everything. Go on, Larry.
Thank you so much, man.
No worries, mate. I look forward to debating with Rakeem next time if you do ever get on.
Yeah, we'll get you both back on, man. James, thank you very much, sir, as ever.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
Jump on Instagram. Jump on Twitter Spaces now. We'll continue to talk.
Yeah. What's your Twitter, bro? I don't really use Twitter that much.
You'll find each other. I'll put you in contact. Don't worry. Michael, thank you so much for joining us in your car, man.
No problem.
And Rakeem, as ever, thank you very much. Our favourite champion, casual.
Until next time.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us on Pitch.
That's one, mate.
Take care, all. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.